My husband invited his ex to our wedding and didn't tell me. I didn't notice her right away. There were too many people, too many moving parts. The music, the cameras, the rustle of dresses and clinking of heels. The ceremony space was beautiful. Rows of white chairs, fresh hydrangeas, my closest friends all lined up in coordinated smiles. I was focused on not tripping over my gown, not crying too early, not messing up my vows. Everything else blurred together. But I saw her. Somewhere between walking down the aisle and saying I do. A woman in the second row, seated on the groom's side. Dark red dress, hair swept up tight, calm eyes. She smiled when our eyes met, but it wasn't the kind of smile people give brides. It didn't say congratulations. It didn't say joy. It looked more like curiosity. Maybe control. I thought she might be a relative. A cousin or old friend. Someone he worked with once. My husband had a big family, and I hadn't met everyone before the wedding. That wasn't unusual. I let it go. There were bigger moments happening. More important things to soak in. And for a while, it all felt perfect. The ceremony was smooth. We said our vows, exchanged rings, and everyone clapped at just the right moment. When we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, I felt like the luckiest person alive. Our reception venue was 5 minutes away, and the guests followed behind in a blur of chatter and champagne. Later that night, during dinner, I noticed her again. Same woman, same seat, same unreadable expression. She was alone at her table, watching. Not talking much. Not taking photos or clinking glasses. Just observing. Still, I didn't ask anyone who she was. I assumed she'd be introduced eventually. That maybe I was overthinking it. We cut the cake. We danced. My father gave a sweet, slightly too long speech that made half the room cry. I was relaxed. Floating. Happy. Then came the best man's toast. He was my husband's college roommate. Always charming, always a little too honest. He stood at the microphone and started with a joke about how my husband used to be a mess in relationships. Everyone laughed. I did too. But then he said it. And let's be honest, we were all surprised he ended up with someone as amazing as Claire, especially after. Well, after her. People chuckled again. I froze. I looked at my husband. He smiled tightly, eyes locked on the tablecloth. I turned toward the mystery woman. She raised her glass. Not big, not showy. Just a gentle lift of the glass in my direction. And that smile again. Soft, polite, and completely cold. I felt my stomach twist. After the toast, I pulled my maid of honor aside and asked quietly, "Do you know who the woman in the red dress is?" She glanced over my shoulder. "Yeah," she said. "That's Erin. I think she used to date Ben, right?" I blinked. "Used to?" She nodded. "Like, seriously?" "Years ago. I think they even lived together for a while." I turned back to where Erin sat. She was still alone. Still smiling. I walked to my husband and leaned down next to him. "Is that your ex?" His eyes didn't meet mine. "I meant to tell you," he said. "But you didn't." "No." "Why is she here?" He didn't answer. And suddenly, my wedding no longer felt like mine. I stepped outside the venue to breathe. The air was cooler than I expected, a soft breeze moving through the hedges, just enough to raise goosebumps on my arms. Behind me, inside the banquet hall, people were laughing, drinking, dancing. But in my head, everything had slowed down to a strange silence. Erin. Her name kept echoing in my mind. Not only had he never mentioned her, but he had also invited her to our wedding. That wasn't a small mistake. That wasn't a name lost in a list. That was deliberate. I turned my phone over in my hand, considering texting my best friend, but she was still inside. I didn't want to explain anything yet. I needed to understand it first. My husband found me a few minutes later. I heard the door open behind me and the clatter of his shoes on the concrete. "Claire," he said. I didn't respond right away. I stared up at the night sky, pretending it was something I could get lost in. "She wasn't supposed to come," he added. "But you invited her." He exhaled. "I sent an invitation out of courtesy. We hadn't spoken in years. I thought she'd ignore it. Why send it at all?" "I don't know. I thought I was being mature. Or maybe just trying to prove to myself that everything was in the past." "And is it?" He looked at me for the first time. I didn't like what I saw in his face. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't concern. It was something like regret, but for himself. "Yes," he said. "It's in the past." "Then why didn't you tell me about her?" "Because I knew how it would sound." "So you hid it?" "I didn't think it mattered." "Of course it mattered." I took a step away, needing space he didn't seem willing to give. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it." "How serious were you two?" "We lived together," he said quietly. "For 3 years." I felt like the floor tilted under me. "And you didn't think I deserved to know that?" It didn't feel relevant. "She's sitting at our wedding." "I know." "Then explain it. Make it make sense." "I can't, Claire. I messed up. I didn't think she'd come. I thought I had moved on enough that it wouldn't matter. But I was wrong." Silence again. She looked at me like she knew something, I said. "What do you mean?" "That toast." She lifted her glass. Like she was in on some secret. Ben's expression changed, just slightly. A twitch near the mouth. "She's trying to mess with you," he said. "That's who she is." I narrowed my eyes. "Then why is she still in your life?" "She's not." "Then get her out." He nodded, slowly. "I will." But something in his voice told me it wouldn't be that simple. We went back inside, but I didn't touch my drink. I didn't smile for the rest of the photos. I kept scanning the crowd, trying to feel normal again. But normal had slipped through my fingers. At the end of the night, when most of the guests had left, I noticed Erin again. Still at her table. Still watching. She stood as we passed. She smiled. And she said 4 words that changed everything. "Nice to finally meet you." Her voice was calm. Almost too calm. "Nice to finally meet you." She didn't say it with warmth or excitement. It wasn't the kind of thing you say to a new bride with genuine kindness. It sounded rehearsed. Measured. Like she'd been waiting for the moment. I blinked, trying to figure out what to say back. My husband shifted beside me, but he didn't say a word. Erin looked from me to him, then back to me, her smile holding steady. I forced a polite nod. "You too," I said, though I didn't mean it. She stepped forward just slightly, reaching out to shake my hand. Her fingers were cold. Her grip was light, but she held on too long. Long enough for it to be uncomfortable. "Congratulations," she added. "It was a lovely ceremony." "Thanks," I said, letting go of her hand. Ben cleared his throat. "We should go," he said to me. "The car's waiting." Erin didn't move aside. Her gaze stayed on me. "I hope he told you everything about me," she said softly. "He didn't," I replied. She smiled again, like that was the answer she expected. Ben stepped between us then, gently but firmly guiding me toward the exit. He didn't look back at her, but I did. Erin was still standing there, now alone, arms folded. Watching us leave. In the car, I didn't say much. Neither did he. The silence pressed in from all sides. Every time I opened my mouth to ask something, I stopped myself. I wasn't ready to hear more. Not yet. We arrived at the hotel. Our bags were already in the suite. The front desk clerk smiled and offered a quiet congratulations. I nodded back, going through the motions. I barely noticed the flowers or champagne set out by the staff. Inside the room, Ben tried to speak. Claire, he said, I know this looks bad. It doesn't look bad, I interrupted. It is bad. He rubbed his hands over his face and sat on the edge of the bed. I didn't know she'd show up. I swear. I sent the invitation as a gesture. I never imagined, why send it at all? He hesitated. I guess I wanted to show her I was okay. That I moved on. And it never occurred to you how that might land. On our wedding day. He looked at me then, finally. I didn't invite her to hurt you. I was just trying to close a door. You didn't close anything. You left it wide open and walked me through it blind. I sat in the chair across from him, staring at the carpet pattern, wondering how a day so carefully planned could turn into a fog of uncertainty. Did you ever love her? I asked quietly. He nodded. A long time ago, yes. And now? Not like that. But you still care. He didn't deny it. She seems to know something, I said. That toast, the way she looked at me. She's not just someone from your past. She's still here, in your mind, in your life. Ben didn't respond. That night, I slept on the far side of the bed, facing the window. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just lay there, wondering what kind of marriage I had just stepped into. And whether this woman, this stranger with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, had already done damage I couldn't undo. I didn't speak to him the next morning. We packed in silence. There was no honeymoon. Not yet. We had planned to delay it until the fall when work slowed down. So we went home. The ride back was filled with quiet glances and long stretches of staring out the window. I could feel the pressure building in my chest, but I didn't know where to put it. My thoughts looped. Her face. Her voice. The way she said my name like she had every right to be part of this story. When we pulled into the driveway, I got out without waiting for him. The front door clicked behind me. I went to the bedroom and started taking the pins out of my hair. One by one. Slow. Like undoing the night in pieces. Ben stood in the doorway. Do you want to talk? I shook my head. He didn't move. He just stood there like he wasn't sure what to do with himself. She messaged me this morning, he said finally. I froze. What did she say? She said it was nice to see me happy. That's it. And that she hopes we make it further than we did. I turned to look at him. That's not a blessing. That's a threat in disguise. I know, he said. I'm sorry. What did you respond? Nothing. I stared at him, searching for a crack in the story. Something about his face looked tired. But not confused. Not scared. Almost like he expected this to happen eventually. How long ago did you two end things? About 5 years, he said. Before I met you. And you've had no contact since. A few emails, maybe. Nothing serious. You still had her address. He looked away. It was still in my contacts. I sat down on the bed. Ben, I don't understand. I don't understand how someone from your past can just appear at our wedding and act like she still belongs in your life. She doesn't. Then why does it feel like she does? He didn't have an answer. Later that day, when he left to run errands, I opened his laptop. I know how that sounds. I hated myself for it. But I needed something. Proof that this was just in my head, or that I wasn't overreacting. His email was open. Nothing stood out. No recent messages from her. No drafts. But when I searched her name, I found an old thread. It started 2 years ago. She had reached out, saying she saw a photo of him online. Congratulated him on a promotion. Said she was glad he was doing well. He replied the same day. Said he hoped she was happy too. They messaged on and off for a few weeks. Nothing flirtatious. Just two people catching up. But then she asked about me. He had mentioned me. Briefly. Said we were serious. She replied, funny. I always imagined I'd be the one at the end of that aisle. That was the last message in the thread. No reply from him. At least not in that account. But that one line stuck with me. It echoed through the house even after I closed the screen. I didn't confront him that night. I didn't tell him what I saw. Instead, I waited. I watched. Because now, I needed to know something more than just the facts. I needed to know why she really came. And what she thought she was still entitled to. A few days passed. I didn't bring up the emails. I thought about it constantly, but I needed more than vague intentions and old conversations. I needed something real. Something I could hold up and say, this is what you hid from me. This is what I deserve to know. Ben acted like everything had smoothed over. He cooked dinner, made coffee for both of us in the mornings, touched my back as he passed behind me. It felt rehearsed. As if he had read a manual on how to act like a good husband, and was trying to get through the steps. I played along. One evening, I waited until he stepped into the shower, and then opened his phone. My hands shook even though I knew the passcode. I didn't want to be this person. But I already was. There were no recent texts from Aaron. No recent calls either. But when I opened his photo gallery, I paused. There was a folder labeled Archived. I tapped it. Inside were photos from years ago. Most of them were normal. Vacations, old friends, work events. And then I saw her. Aaron. They had traveled together. There were photos of her in hotel rooms, sitting across from him at restaurants, smiling over a coffee mug. She looked different than she did at the wedding. Softer somehow. Younger. But one thing was consistent. She always looked directly at the camera. Like she knew these images would last. I kept scrolling. Then I found a short video. It was dated about 6 months before he and I met. I pressed play. It was her voice first. Off camera. Laughing. Then Ben's voice. You think we'll still talk in 10 years? She asked. Maybe, he said. If you don't marry someone richer than me. She laughed again. Or if you don't forget about me completely. That's not possible, he replied. The clip ended there. I stared at the screen for a long time. He had kept it. Not on the cloud. Not in a backup folder. But here. On his phone. Where he could find it easily. I put the phone down just as the bathroom door opened. He walked out with a towel around his waist and smiled. Everything okay? I nodded. Just checking the weather for tomorrow. He leaned over and kissed the top of my head. I'm thinking we should plan something. Maybe a weekend away. Just us. No drama. Sounds nice. But my voice felt far away, like it belonged to someone else. That night, after he fell asleep, I lay in the dark staring at the ceiling. A new thought had started growing in my mind, and once it took root, I couldn't shake it. What if she didn't come to crash the wedding? What if she came because she believed she still had a place? And what if Ben, in some quiet corner of his heart, believed that too? The next morning, I made a decision. I messaged her. Just one sentence. Can we meet? She replied in less than 5 minutes. Name the place. We agreed to meet at a cafe on the edge of town. Neutral ground. A quiet place where no one knew me, and no one would interrupt. I picked a small table near the window and ordered a tea I wouldn't drink. My hands felt cold even though it was warm outside. She arrived 10 minutes late. Erin walked in like she owned the space. Her coat was draped over her arm, her sunglasses perched on her head. She spotted me instantly, gave a polite smile, and walked over like we were old friends meeting for brunch. Claire, she said. Thanks for reaching out. I nodded. She sat down, crossed her legs, and placed her phone face down on the table. So she said, what would you like to know? I didn't respond right away. I studied her face. She was beautiful, still. Older than she looked at the wedding, now that I could see her up close. But it was her eyes that unsettled me. They didn't flicker or flinch. They stayed on me, calm and sharp. Why did you come to the wedding? She smiled again, but it didn't reach her eyes. Ben invited me. He didn't expect you to show up. Probably not. So why did you? I thought about it for a while, she said. And then I decided it was time. I saw the woman he chose over me. I bristled. We weren't competing. No, she said. But sometimes people still keep score. I leaned forward. What exactly do you want from him? Nothing. I don't believe you. She tilted her head. That's fine. There was silence between us for a few seconds. A song played faintly through the cafe speakers. She looked around, then back at me. I'm not here to ruin your marriage, Claire. If that's what you're worried about. You've already done damage. Whether you meant to or not. She shrugged. I showed up. I didn't cause a scene. I didn't make a speech or cry in the aisle. You made sure I saw you. And you said things only someone trying to stir the pot would say. Her expression finally cracked. A flicker of irritation passed through. You want the truth? I nodded. Fine. The truth is, Ben and I never had closure. One day it just ended. He stopped calling. He moved out. No explanation. No goodbye. One day we were planning a trip, and the next he was gone. That was 5 years ago. And it still matters. Why? Because I never stopped wondering why I wasn't enough. I sat back. That's not my fault. I know it's not. Then what are you doing? She looked out the window for a moment, then turned back to me. I thought maybe if I saw the life he chose, I could let it go. But it didn't work. Why not? Because I saw how he looked at you. And he looked at you the way he used to look at me. The words hit me like a quiet slap. Not loud, not sharp. Just heavy. I stood up. If you ever contact him again, I'll block your number myself. This marriage doesn't need ghosts hanging around. She didn't follow me out. She didn't call my name or apologize. As I stepped into the sunlight, I realized something important. Ben hadn't chosen to end things with her. He had escaped. And now, her shadow was standing right at our doorstep. I didn't tell Ben I met with her. Not right away. I needed time to process what she said. I needed space from both of them. Aaron's words kept looping through my mind. He looked at you the way he used to look at me. She had said it like a fact. Like she knew something I didn't. But I did know. I saw the way Ben had been acting since the wedding. Like he was managing the damage, not repairing anything. Like I was a situation, not a partner. That night, I watched him sleep. His breathing slow. His arm draped across the pillow between us. He looked peaceful. I didn't feel peace. I felt cold. In the morning, I decided to ask. I sat across from him at breakfast and looked him in the eye. Ben, did you ever give her a reason for leaving? He paused, buttering his toast. A simple movement, suddenly heavy. No, he said quietly. Why not? Because I didn't think she needed one. Everyone needs a reason. He didn't respond. I met with her, I said. That got his attention. He looked up, face tense. You what? Yesterday. I messaged her. We talked. Why would you do that? Because I needed the truth. And you weren't giving it to me. He dropped his knife onto the plate. It clattered, louder than expected. What did she tell you? Enough. He stood and paced the kitchen. This is ridiculous, Claire. We're married. She's in the past. Why dig all this up? Because you never buried it. You just walked away and pretended it would stay dead. He shook his head. You think I still want her. I think you never made peace with how it ended. And I think she's holding on to that silence like it means something. He leaned against the counter, eyes distant. You're right. I never said goodbye. I didn't know how. I didn't want the confrontation. So you just vanished. I told myself it was cleaner that way. Less painful. For who? He didn't answer. I stood. Ben, if we're going to move forward, you need to be honest. Completely. Otherwise, this marriage will rot from the inside. He looked at me, and I could see the weight behind his eyes. I loved her, he said. I know. But I love you now. Then show me. Show me you've closed that chapter. How? By doing what you should have done years ago. Finish the story. He looked confused. Say goodbye. Really say it. Out loud. To her. No more pretending. He stared at the floor for a long time. I'll try. No. You'll do it. Later that week, I watched him send the message. He kept it short. No emotion. Just a clear, direct note. I wish you well. But we're done. Please don't contact me again. She never replied. It should have felt like a win. But something still sat in my chest like a stone. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was hollow. Because what I realized was this: even when someone leaves, even when they stop speaking, their shadow can linger in the room. In the way a person hesitates. In the way they speak your name. In what they refuse to say. Erin had been a ghost in our marriage. But Ben had invited her in. And I had to decide if I was willing to live with someone who kept rooms locked inside himself. The weeks that followed were quiet. Not cold, not distant, just quieter than before. Like we were both waiting for something to settle. Like we were adjusting to a version of the truth we hadn't planned for. I didn't bring up Erin again, and Ben didn't either. The message had been sent, the silence returned, and life tried to move forward. But I could feel it. The shift. We went back to work. We had dinners. We made small plans for the future. A trip we might take, a house we might look at. But underneath it all, I kept asking myself the same question. If I had known then what I know now, would I have said yes at the altar? I didn't know. That scared me. One night, I found him sitting in the living room with the lights off, scrolling through old photos on his phone. He didn't hear me walk in. I stood there for a second, watching. Then I turned and went back upstairs. Not everything was broken. But something had cracked, and no one was admitting how deep it went. A few days later, I packed a bag. He came home from work and found it by the door. What is that? I need space, I said. His eyes narrowed. Claire, we talked about this. I did what you asked. I ended it. You ended contact. That's not the same as being honest with yourself. He stepped forward. I chose you. Then show it. How? By letting me breathe. By letting me figure out if this version of us is something I can live with. His voice dropped. Are you leaving me? No. I'm stepping back. That's different. He didn't stop me. He didn't try to argue. And that told me everything. I stayed at my sister's for a few nights. I walked more. I listened to music without lyrics. I wrote things down that I hadn't had the courage to say out loud. Not just about Ben. About myself. About what I expected from love. About the kind of silence I had allowed into my life without question. On the fourth day, I got a message from him. It was a photo. The old video of Erin, the one I had seen on his phone, deleted from his gallery. And below it, a note. You deserve someone with no shadows left. I want to be that man. I stared at it for a long time. Not because it fixed everything. But because it meant he finally saw it too. The difference between burying the past and releasing it. I came home that night. He was sitting in the kitchen, nervous. He stood when I walked in. Are you here to stay? I don't know yet, I said. But I'm here to try. He nodded. That's all I'm asking. We sat together, no music, no distractions. Just two people trying to find their way back from the edge. Marriage is not one big promise. It's a series of small, daily choices. Some days you keep them. Some days you fail. But when you invite someone into your life, you don't get to leave doors half closed. Not if you want them to stay.